Hello students, welcome to the fourth session for 10th standard science dealing with the chapter the control and the coordination. Well, up till now we have discussed very well about the structure of a typical neuron, the structure of the human brain, dealing with the human nervous system. And in the last class we went on to the coordination in case of the plants. Well, today our main focus of attention is on the hormones. That is the system dealing with the hormones, that is the endocrine system. The various hormones that are released from it and the various disorders that are basically created if those hormones are secreted in a less amount. So let us understand in much detail. Now a squirrel is having its own food on the branch of a tree and it observes the predator, so it runs away. So how the organism know that it has to run away? So there are special systems in relation to it, that is the hormones which are in relation to this. Well, by the end of this discussion we will be able to understand the levels of the control and coordination in case of the animal body. We will be able to define the endocrine system and compare it with the nervous system. We'll deal with the various hormones and describe the properties of the hormones, explain the endocrine system in case of the humans, the different hormones released and their typical functions, and the mechanisms of the hormone regulations. So this entire session deals with the hormones in case of the animals. Now what are these hormones? These hormones are nothing but they are the chemical substances, that is the chemical messengers which regulate the entire body from time to time. Well, the control and the coordination of the entire body is mainly done by the nervous coordination and by the chemical coordination. In relation to the nervous coordination, that is the nervous system has a role to play. Well, in case of the chemical coordination, there are certain chemicals, and by the union of these two systems, the body works in a well coordinated manner. The nervous system that regulates the body consists of the brain and the spinal cord. And the endocrine system, it consists of a lot of glands, that is the structures that release some sort of juice. So the nervous coordination, that is through the electrical impulses and the neurotransmitters. And we have seen very well the neurons and how the messages are transferred from one neuron to the other. So through the chemical messengers called the hormones produced by the endocrine glands, the entire endocrine system works. So this endocrine system produces a lot of hormones which help in the coordination of the entire body. So through the chemical messengers known as the hormones produced by the endocrine glands, the entire control and coordination of the body ultimately takes place. That is the neurotransmitter from the nervous system and the hormones of the endocrine systems. They both work in a well coordinated manner. Well, what is this endocrine system? Well, the endocrine system consists of the ductless glands. Duct means a tube. So they don't have the tube-like structures that secrete the hormones. The hormones are released directly into the blood. Well, a lot of hormones are released from the nervous system, that is the regions of the nervous system. So let us focus on. They are secreted in the small quantities. The hormones are secreted in small quantities by the ductless glands. They are released directly into the blood and carried by the blood circulation. These hormones consist of the steroids, the proteins, the peptides and the amino acid derivatives. And they are also specific to the target tissues or the organs. They affect a site different from the production site. So these are the typical characteristics of the hormones. Now, and these hormones are sent through the various transportation systems also known as the chemical messengers, that they modify and regulate the activities of the target or the organs. So the variations that are observed in case of the human body as well as in the body of the animals, that is because of the hormones that are released from time to time. These hormones, they are different in case of the plants as well as in case of the animals. And in case of the animals, a lot of variations are there. The various glands are there which help in the release of the various hormones. They are the parathyroid, the thyroid gland, the thymus gland, the adrenal gland, the pancreas, the testes in case of the males, and the ovaries in case of the females also. And they help in the release of various hormones. The first one is the pituitary gland. Now the pituitary gland is said to be the master gland of the entire body. It releases a lot of hormones which control and coordinate the entire regions, the important regions of the body. Here in the diagram we can observe very well the important structures of the human body. It mainly produces one of the most important hormone, that is the growth hormone, which controls the development of the bones and the muscles. Hormone deficiency may lead to dwarfism, and if it is secreted in larger amount, it might lead to gigantism. So the variations we observe in our life, that is because of the release. Next one is the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is said to be the super master gland. It controls the hormones released by the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland is the master gland and the hypothalamus is the super master gland. It controls the body temperature, the hunger, the thirst, fatigue, that is the tiredness, and the sweating also. Next one is the thyroid gland. Well, focusing on in much detail, it releases the hormone known as the thyroxine. So this thyroxine regulates the calcium, the protein, the carbohydrate, and the fat metabolism in the body so as to produce the best balance. So it helps in the proper regulation. It regulates the entire body, and for the proper work of the thyroxine, iodine is essential. If it is released in excess amount, it is harmful. If it is released in less amount, then also it is very much harmful to it. So it might lead to the goiter, which is a deficiency to it. So the iodized salt is to be taken for the effective working of the thyroid gland. Furthermore, the next is the parathyroid gland. These are the 4 lobes which are present inside the thyroid gland, and the hormone which it produces is said to be the parahormone or the parathormone. Well, it also has a huge role to play in our body, that is, it regulates the calcium levels in our body. So the blood and the bone development basically takes place because of the release of the hormones. If it is there in lesser amount, these are the various diseases which it affects, that is the parathyroid tetany and the osteoporosis. The next one is the adrenal gland. From the name itself, adrenal, that is what? Above the renal. Renal means the kidneys, so they are present above the kidneys. It releases the hormone known as the adrenaline. And this adrenaline is the fight or the flight hormone, also said to be the emergency hormone. This adrenaline is an emergency hormone which prepares the body to face an emergency situation of the physical stress. It prepares the body to face an emergency condition. So whether to react or not during extreme situation, that depends on the release of the adrenaline. No doubt it is under the control of the human being, but that excessive emotions that has been created, that is basically because of the adrenaline. Next is the pancreas. We have seen its role in case of the digestive system, but here it releases the hormones known as the insulin, the glucagon, somatostatin, and the pancreatic polypeptides. but the major one is the insulin. It is the second largest endocrine gland. And this insulin regulates the sugar levels in the body. Ultimately, it decreases the sugar level in the body. In those organisms where this insulin is not being produced, they suffer from the diabetes. So externally they have to take the injections of the insulin. And if there is hyper secretion of the insulin, there are a lot of effects in our day-to-day life also. The stress and the excessive sugar level, it might affect our body. So the proper amount of insulin that is taken is much needed. Next one is the ovaries in case of the females. Well, they release the two major hormones, that is the estrogen and the progesterone. Well, the estrogen is mainly responsible for the various secondary sexual characteristics in case of the females. Both estrogen and the progesterone have a huge role to play. The menstrual cycle that takes place every month, that is because of the progesterone. The development of the baby, that is also under it is. Next one is the testes in case of the males. It produces the hormone known as the testosterone, that is responsible for the secondary sexual characteristics in case of the males. It controls the change at the time of puberty, such as the facial hair, the body hair, and the broader voice, that is the deeper voice. No doubt other functions are also there. Next one is the pineal gland. Here we can easily observe the location where it is basically located. It produces the hormone known as the melatonin. Melatonin itself responsible for the reproductive development, the modulation of the sleep-wake cycle, and the seasonal function, that is when to wake up and when to go to sleep. All these things are basically controlled by the melatonin. Also, it is responsible for giving the skin color, that is the melanin pigment which is there. Next one is the thymus gland. Well, it also releases its own typical hormone. It produces a type of white blood cells known as the T lymphocytes. Well, they help and they govern the cellular immunity, that is acting as the soldiers of the body. They, together with the WBCs, they basically protect the body from various external agents, that is the foreign substances. It increases the cell growth. Moreover, the timing and the quantity of the hormones that are released are regulated by the feedback mechanisms in the body. Your feedback mechanisms means the mechanisms that control the release of certain hormones. If the hormones are released in proper amount, then when to stop the release of the hormones, that is basically controlled by the feedback mechanisms. So let us observe it out in much detail. Well, in the body of a typical human, if you observe very carefully, that is the increase in the blood sugar level that is detected by the pancreas, and that will ultimately release the increase in the insulin production. So the blood sugar level will be normal, and when the blood sugar level becomes normal, it stops the production of the insulin. So that was about the entire thing in relation to the human endocrine system, where we dealt with the various types of the hormones and the deficiencies that are created by them. Well, so that is the end of the entire chapter in relation to the control and the coordination, where we dealt with the human neurons. Then we went on to the human nervous system, dealing with the structure of a typical brain. We went on to the reflex actions, the coordination in case of the plants, and lastly we went on into the endocrine system in case of the humans. So in the next class we shall go into one more new and exciting chapter in relation to the biology section of science. Thank you very much.